Nice Radio Kalaloo presents Just Another Look. Just Another Look is an innovative, exciting, albeit decidedly provocative and yes, certainly controversial, socio-political analysis of issues of a local, regional, and international nature. Just Another Look is heard only on Nice Radio. First aired on Saturdays at 6 p.m. with repeat broadcasts on Sundays at 9 p.m. You can always catch us on the World Wide Web, www.niceradio.info. You can always check out our Just Another Look blog, www.justanotherlook.com. And of course, you can check us on Facebook. Sorry, that's YouTube. I am, of course, Keith Joseph. Today, dear friends, is Saturday. It is the first day of February 2020. Welcome to another edition of your favorite program, that's Just Another Look. During this past week, dear friends, St. Vincent and the Grenadines may well have seen at once the best and the very worst of what has become of our beautiful country. We may well have seen the best and the very worst of what has become of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On the one hand, dear friends, we had the funeral service and burial of former Governor General of this country, Sir Frederick Ballantyne. A faithful son of the soil. Some would say a Vincentian patriot. And it was interesting to hear and to read the comments that were made about Sir Frederick Ballantyne while he lived. The nature of the man, as interpreted by those with whom he came into contact and by his own children. And there were some who would suggest that he died as he lived. That may suggest that he loved humility, that he was always somewhat reflective, that he cared, and that he made time to help others. Some may well suggest at the same time that in his later years, Sir Frederick Ballantyne may well have grown somewhat disenchanted with what he saw as the changed political landscape of his native land. He understood only too well the economic changes that had taken place. There was a time when some thought he would have sold Young Island. And there was a time when he himself became concerned about the fact that Vincentians, and more particularly black Vincentians, were all too easily giving up what was truly Vincentian. He felt perhaps more than a little pained at seeing Vincentian patrimony give way he was concerned about the Vincentian reality and about the changing nature of the Vincentian, the average Vincentian individual. So we can say from our vantage point, and having known and interacted with Sir Frederick Ballantyne, that he had come to be quite a bit disenchanted in his later years. Those who are at the helm and have responsibility for the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines often seem to think that it is a one-man job, or it should be the work of only a few, because they and their supporters are the only ones who should own the country and own the jobs. And Sir Fred was well aware of the implications of that approach. In his role as Governor General, Sir Frederick Ballantyne ensured that he stayed within the parameters of the established norms of the lofty post he occupied as the Queen's representative and head of state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He sought to dignify the position. He understood what was expected of him, and he sought to ensure that he performed with the necessary dignity. We can tell you from our vantage point, he was not always pleased with everything that happened. But he held his peace. And he performed what he saw as his duty. Sir Frederick Ballantyne kept his political views pretty much to himself, never allowing them to be heard in public, and thereby avoiding any perception of bias for any particular political party. One can only hazard a guess of how Sir Frederick Ballantyne must have felt in the scenario immediately following the conclusion of the elections, the general elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One can only hazard a guess how he must have felt seeing the pressure that took control as the results, the last set of results were coming in. One can only imagine how he must have felt understanding the plight of the people on the one hand, the Vincentian electorate, understanding the anxieties over that last set of results to come in. Understanding the anxiety of some to know who would have won, and of others to hold fast to leadership. One can only hazard a guess as to how he would have felt at that particular time. Of course, there were always challenges associated with being the head of state, especially when one gets that position on the recommendation of the head of government. One has to fall in line or leave the position before being summarily removed and replaced. So being sufficiently aware of the reality of his circumstance as head of state, we can say that Sir Frederick Ballantyne played his cards well. Very well indeed. Knowing Dr. Gonzalez's penchant for what Just Another Look describes as the politics of the dead, it was to be expected that he would have had his say, both on the passing of Sir Fred and at his funeral. From our vantage point here at Just Another Look, Sir Fred would have expected that the Prime Minister would speak. But deep down, he may never have really wanted it. You see, much like the breadfruit wood that he insisted should be used to make his coffin, he would not have wanted much talking over his corpse before getting interred. That was the nature of the man. He knew death was at his door. Monty Mall, who delivered the sermon, informed all that in 2018 he went to him and told him he wanted him to do his sermon. It does not matter how much longer after that he died. That's not the issue here. It is that he was preparing for his passing. He knew the diagnosis. He was a medical practitioner. He was being treated for his condition. He kept it much to himself. But he identified an individual who he also saw as critical, as important to deliver the kind of message he wanted to be delivered at his funeral. very clear. And Maul told the congregation about the life of Sir Fred since that time. He would not have wanted a set of heavy speeches, and he certainly would not have been particularly keen on having politicians, of all people, having much to say at his departure from this land. But it is symptomatic of his commitment to St. Vincent and the Grenadines that he insisted on his coffin being made of breadfruit wood. Something he considered important, something he considered Vincentian. Something that he felt linked him sufficiently with who we are supposed to be as a people. One could also hazard a guess that had he in his coffin the opportunity to look up, look around at the fuss that was being made over his interment, he would probably have sucked his teeth and shrugged his shoulders in his own inimitable style. But one has to understand that the comrade's sense of history and the comrade's perception of his own role in history, especially in an election year like 2020, could probably not have allowed the opportunity to pass. Sometimes it is better to leave an opportunity alone rather than seize it. But the comrade may well have felt that he had to speak. He may well have felt that his presence, he had to ensure that his presence was sufficiently awesome, that it could not be missed by those present, as well as those listening and viewing via the electronic media. The politics of the dead. Knowing Sir Frederick Ballantyne, however, more than 1 year before his death, he chose Monty Maul to deliver the sermon at his funeral service. He knew who he wanted to do this activity and made his choice very early. So in that sense, as we remember Sir Frederick Ballantyne, we can talk about having seen and heard about the best of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But then during this past week, we have also had an opportunity to experience the worst. A young woman is today totally disfigured. Totally disfigured as the result of an altercation with another woman. This happened in Greg's. Totally disfigured. Chops across the face. Chops. As is the case with just about everything these days, the incident with its gruesome pictures made the rounds on Facebook, on the social media, in record time, with little or no caring for the plight of the victim. Vincentians have become so nonchalant about just about everything. So a woman gets chopped about the face, and in no time flat, it's all over the place. And it's not about caring. Yes, it is about sharing what had happened. But it was not really about caring for the victim. But what it tells us is about the depths to which Vincentians have sunk. That two young women could end up in an altercation and one gets so badly chopped, disfigured for life. You see, dear friends, politicians talk all the time. They lie to themselves even as they lie to the public, to the electorate. There is a tendency for politicians to do just about anything that would endear them to the masses, that would make them popular, that would give the impression that they're so concerned about you that they're doing the very best they can for you. And they forget that you have the capacity to look at them during their careers. Look at the growth in their pumped. Look at the growth in their accumulation of resources. Look at them, at how quickly they try to make sure that they don't die like Joshua. Almost totally impoverished, if not totally. They're not going to leave political office empty-handed. So they talk and they talk and they talk and they forget that people listen, people watch, and they arrive at their own conclusions. The so-called education revolution, the so-called Pan Against Crime initiative, the so-called Sport Against Crime initiative, none of them has as yet impacted Vincentian society to the point where people believe that they are their brother's keeper. None of them have been able to impact the way we behave as Vincentians. If anything, they all seem to have missed their mark. But then again, perhaps that was intentional. Perhaps they were never intended really to do anything more than be nice sounding phrases and projects that politicians can deliver and talk for hours about in order to garner votes, not really to change the quality of life of Vincentians. It is amazing when you hear our political leadership talk about projects and the way in which they open their eyes and shout out the numbers. Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So this is costing millions of dollars. Well, dear friends, we spent $52 million. $1 million in preparing for the Cricket World Cup 2007. Look around you and see the legacies. Remember we were told there would be legacies? Look around you and see the state of the legacies. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we have failed in respect of legacies. What mattered is we were able at the time to boast of how much we love sport. That we are putting $52 million into projects. And for the last 13 years, we've been unable to get the toilets in the sprawling double-decker stand, the largest of the stands at Arnoldsville, to function. It doesn't matter, because we already got the value of boasting about the amount of money spent. And the Science Hill playing field is still in need of work. Arnoldsville too has not gone anywhere. And we have challenges at Stubbs. But we spent $52 million. And you're being told how many millions of dollars we are spending. Why? Because now we want to convince the electorate yet again of the extent to which they love us in order merely to get the vote. The quality of life of Vincentians does not really seem to matter. Speaking about it does. And that is why we can, in an election year, dispense galvanized cement, steel, lumber, because we believe that that is the level at which Vincentians would understand the importance of politics and give their vote. They dispense with these things as if they are casting important financial resources to you. They love you so much that they give you what they think you need. They don't ask you what you need. They have already determined in their own minds what is best for you in order to garner your vote. But the quality of life of Vincentians continue to deteriorate for the vast majority. And so we have one revolution after another. You notice we don't talk about the wellness revolution anymore because there is no reflection of that in the leadership. Obesity continues to grow in this country. But the obese can't speak of obesity. He who created the concept of a wellness revolution dare not talk about it now. Because his gait seemed to suggest that he is almost the antithesis of that concept. And being aware of that, the concept is no longer bandied about. We don't like to talk about these things because they reflect on what is really happening in our society. So we bring out these nice sounding phrases: the wellness revolution, the education revolution, the Pan Against Crime initiative, and so on and so on. Each year we look for something new to talk about so that it gives an idea or sense that it's all fresh. In the truth and in fact, we're moving quickly in the opposite direction. A young lady seemed to have thought that the best way to address a conflict was to chop up the other one, particularly in her face and head, disfiguring her for life. Disfiguring her for life. So that every time she looks at herself in the mirror, she's pained. She's hurt. All of these fanciful concepts that we have created and serve on a political platter in the hope of garnering votes. Individually and collectively, they have done nothing but proven themselves incapable of redressing the haste with which Vincentians have lost all sense of patient understanding and of caring for each other. We seem to believe, dear friends, that one of the features of development, one of the features of social advancement, is the loss of the capacity to care for each other. Look at what the politicians have done to us as a society. Down to the colors of the clothing we wear is impacted by the political system. And the leadership of the country plays with these concepts. So on the one hand, he knows everything. And on the other hand, he knows nothing. So after ensuring and telling the world that he's the one building the single largest capital project in the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Argyle International Airport, he did not know how the star appeared in concrete on the day of the opening. So sometimes he knows everything and sometimes he knows nothing. He sometimes seems incapable of making up his mind as to saying to the public what he should know and what he does not know. Was he the one who, thousands of miles away, talked about assassination when Glenn Jackson was brutally slain? Did he know? Yet at the end of the day, Jackson's wife ended up with scapegoat justice. The very thing at the funeral she said she did not want. I do not want scapegoat justice. I want real justice. But all she got was scapegoat justice. Was he the one to stand up in Parliament and take so much parliamentary time to tell us of a plot to assassinate him? And for all the information he appeared so eager to deliver on that occasion. In January of 2011, nobody was arrested based on the information he delivered on that morning. But it sounded good. It sounded political. And it was in the aftermath of a bruising elections where he and his party lost several seats. So on the one hand, you can talk all sorts of things, but you still only have a one-seat majority. A situation not dissimilar when the shoe was on the other foot. Several years before. 1998 general election. So it seems as though, dear friends, in spite of all that we are being told about initiatives being established here, there, and everywhere, they've all, individually and collectively, proven incapable of redressing the haste with which Vincentians have lost all sense of patient understanding and of caring for each other. In almost every situation today, whenever there is some sort of conflict, the seemingly first and often only preferred recourse is violence. We know how to lie with statistics. The first and often only preferred recourse is violence. We may choose to say all other sorts of things, but we have to admit that we've become decidedly impatient as a nation. In almost every situation today, that is our first recourse. How does one person seek to systematically cut up another, ensuring that the latter becomes virtually unrecognizable thereafter? What is the expected recourse then of the victim and her family? Just Another Look has long declared that Vincentian society has lost its soul. There is no longer any genuine sense of morality. We have given up on ethical standards guiding our behavior. So much so that our ethical standards have readily dissipated across the entire nation. Our teachers appear to be wasting their time addressing issues of morality and ethics. Indeed, some of them may very well not be good examples of morality and ethical standards. The loss of religious faith in Vincentian society, a belief that religiosity has nothing to do with contemporary society, has become the norm. We see it as part and parcel of the process of modernization, especially now in the face of rapidly advancing technologies. These have left Vincentian society characterized by the absence of care. Our politicians have virtually castrated the concept of love. Our politicians have virtually castrated the concept of love, transforming many into an apparent amorphous lot, almost devoid of emotion, blighted in large measure by the drunken stupor of political charlatanism that elevates mammon to near divine status. That is our society today. And the third issue that addresses the worst of us is the brutal slaying of a mother as she walked out of the St. Martin's schoolyard with her son. Bullets pumped into her body. In the presence of the children at the St. Martin's Secondary School. Columbine is in the United States. And we've always pointed an accusing finger and said that don't happen here. That's not our way of doing things. Well, during the week, now ending, a man showed us how readily it can happen here. Walked into a school as people are leaving for the day. And a mother, his wife, walking with her son. And in front of everybody, delivers the fatal shots. The politicians may talk for as long as they like. This is Vincentian reality today. This is Vincentian reality today. There's no hiding. A naked crime is committed, and it brings us back to when then lawyer Mark Williams pumped bullets into his girlfriend in front of police headquarters. She having just come out of the police headquarters, having made a report. And in front of police headquarters, an officer of the law fatally shoots her outside of the police headquarters. We wouldn't go in details now about the reaction of some of the lawyers, including the one who is the Minister of National Security and Prime Minister of this country. We wouldn't go into that now. But it's still at the newspapers that tells of that reaction, of those reactions. And that was in the height of Carnival. This week, it was in a school. Can you imagine the trauma? The traumatic impact on that son? Can you imagine the horrific experience of those students and others in the St. Martin's Secondary School? But Just Another Look is saying to you that this is what has become of our beautiful country. This is who we are today. And we say to you here from Just Another Look, the politicians really don't care. They don't care. They seem to think that life is about telling you how much money they're pumping into this or that exercise. So we built an international airport. We're now going to be building hotels all over the place. We are developing the society for you, but we are not developing the society. Yeah? We think that the impact of infrastructure is going to win us votes, and they will. Because that is what they have made us believe as a people. That what is important is that we make the place look different by putting up more fanciful buildings. That we have developed because we have a seat on the United Nations Security Council. That we have developed because we can talk about what we have done for you. And we can pat ourselves on the back for having delivered this and that for you. But what really is the qualitative difference of the average Vincentian today with what we had in the past? Where is our humanity? Where is our understanding of the sense of worth of the individual? You see, those things don't sell. Politicians don't really care about those. They believe that as a people, all you want to see are fanciful buildings. There is an assumption that progress and development can be measured by the number of buildings that we have, by the number of foreign investment that we have. We're finding out that is not necessarily the case. So we have seen the best and the worst of us.